"Where's the bedroom?" Todd asked as soon as his breath became relatively moderate. His eyes didn't lose Max from the sight, not even for a second. "The next round will be serious. This table won't handle it." "I'm not sure I will handle." Max was honest. He didn't have such orgasm for 100 years. Probably it was not a good idea going overboard with abstinence after all. He was still breathing heavily, and Todd, looking at his slightly reddened lips, the graceful curve of his neck, the beautiful trained torso, understood that he would handle not only the second but also the third, the fourth, and maybe even the 15th round. "Congrats, I am satisfied. You can leave with a clear conscience." It was a big mistake to say that. A second later, his world narrowed again to insatiable hands on his body and soft, merciless lips that bit into his own with an indescribable combination of selfish demands and timid tenderness. And Max was driven again in the direction extremely far from the common sense, and he succumbed one more time, realizing that he got too far to refuse something now. Todd was already riding him off his pants, grabbing his tight buttocks, after which Max bit his ear, losing himself of such shamelessness, and at the same time enjoying the feeling of tickling lips on his shoulders and neck. Very soon they reached again the highest point of the arousal, and Max pushed Todd a little away and mumbled, "It looks like you were right. We need to move to the bedroom." Todd hugged him even stronger, clearly discerning the frantic pounding of his heart. "Okay." Max tried to pull away again and was defeated one more time. "I'm afraid we won't get there like that." "I'm afraid I cannot release you." Todd touched lightly the edge of his nose with his tongue. "Wrap your arms around my neck tighter." "No." Max shook his head. "I won't allow you to carry me." He surreptitiously pressed on a sensitive spot on Todd's elbow, causing him to twitch painfully. This short pause was enough for Max to successfully break the hugs, and after completely gotten rid of the pants, moved towards the exit of the living room. "Take care of your clothes," he said, with a smile, turning around on the threshold. "I don't want to waste time on it later." Todd's breath was taken away by his relaxed grin and gorgeous, slender body with a cock standing boldly in full readiness. The fact that he was smiling in such condition was amazing. As soon as he disappeared, Todd hastily stripped off all the remaining clothes and then rushed to the backpack for lube. When he was taking it, he didn't even think that he could use it finally, and now he was almost out of his mind from what was going to happen. It wasn't difficult to find the bedroom. Fortunately, there weren't too many rooms in the apartment, so Todd discovered the necessary one without any problems. A huge bed covered with beige linen was empty. Max stood next to it taking off a second sock when Todd threw the lube on the nightstand and knocked him on the bed, immediately gnawing his lips into his beautiful hot body. Max did not take a passive position. He was hugging Todd persistently, kissing him unrestrained, and constantly wandering with his hands over his body, giving the already vivid intimacy even more poignancy. They would have caressed each other like that long, without any haste, but soon the arousal turned such unbearable that every time they touched each other's tense organ, they winced painfully, flinching from surprise. When Max reached for his penis, Todd stopped him and rushed to the nightstand. It was even scary to get where he dreamed to get long time ago, but he was not going to stop. He stared at Max spreading out before him, watched his heavily raising chest, his abs strained to the limit, and was drowning in his dark eyes, which looked at him with calm and fearless consent. The first finger went through relatively easy, causing only at the first moment an instinctive compression, which Max overcame very soon, relaxed by Todd's incessant kisses. The next stage was harder because physiology took over the mind, fiercely resisting the invasion of two fingers at once. Max was breathing hardly, not from a pleasure this time, and Todd patiently calmed him with gentle touches, desperately waiting for at least a tiny acceptance. He immediately felt the moment when the walls parted slightly and sharply pushed the fingers deeper, pulling a shocked sigh from Max's chest. He got exactly where he needed to. He didn't save him from the pain completely, but now he knew how to block it. Holding Max by his hand firmly, he pulled his fingers a little behind and then moved them forward again. Max was almost thrown on the bed. He buried his hand in Todd's hair, catching his floating gaze. "Do it. I'm ready." Without breaking eye contact, Todd added the third finger and plunged deep into Max again with a flourish. Max leaned back, arching in the small of his back, gasping from an indescribable feeling of wild pain and murderous pleasure. "You're a fiend." Todd was sliding with his lips over his chest, continuing the inevitable torment. He knew perfectly that it was just a warm-up. He stopped only when his fingers were passing almost freely, without rigid resistance, and when Max's sighs completely got rid of any painful elements, and became an expression of a huge, absolutely clear pleasure. Max clasped him with his legs around the waist, kissing hotly, and Todd entered into his body sharply, pulling out of him a loud stunned moan, which was impossible to hold off this time. The pain was dominating, breaking the conscience, but the next push brought back the balance, making them both to shudder from a strong, like an electric current, impulse of pleasure. Todd tried to control his movements till the moment when Max's hands tightened on his shoulders, expressing the absolute peak of emotions. After that, Todd allowed himself to break. He began to fuck him with all passion, gently and roughly at the same time, each time entering to the limit, and reveling in the insane hoarse moans of his long-adored love. This time Max finished first riding with his dick along the stone-like abs of Todd, and shrank so tightly that Todd moaned loudly and followed him, almost falling down of the sharpness of the sudden explosion. Having kissed Max's cheek softly, he managed to fall aside, but still was continuing to watch him attentively. His crazy breathing, trembling muscles on the arms and stomach, desperately beating vein on the neck, clearly distinguishable even in dim lighting. They were keeping silence for at least 10 minutes, coming back to their senses, thinking about their own. Max about Todd's monstrous professionalism, Todd about the incredible happiness that fell to his lot. He was indeed happy as never was, and he knew that he would make Max his, not only with his body, but also with his soul. He will reveal the truth when the time comes, and he will get his forgiveness whatever it costs. But that will be later. As for now, he was still thrilled with what he had at the moment. "I will take it one more time before I black out," Max said, after regaining his breath completely. "But now I want to listen to your moans. You are not against, are you?" Todd propped himself up on one elbow, looking at him with a slow brewing desire. I cannot be against if it's about you. Max looked at him with mild bewilderment, and then just shook his head and threw him on his back, taking the legal right to lead him through the same deliciously crazy path that he himself had just passed. He had no doubts that he would complete the task successfully. After all, he was taught by a true professional in his field.